For many families, the 1960s were an amazing time, despite the turbulence of the decade. Family life mirrored the times. The decade began innocently, but grew into unrest with assassinations, war, and rebellion. However, these years did bring considerable societal advances, with women's rights, civil rights, and also space exploration. By 1960, most American households had a television. There were only 3 channels, and usually only one TV set per household. People began to rely on TV news for the day's headlines. When something major happened on TV, it affected the whole country at the exact same time. The decade brought with it many notable television news stories that included the assassinations of JFK, Dr. Martin Luther King, and Robert Kennedy. The civil rights struggles that were also documented were peaceful protests, violent retaliation, and landmark legislation. The Vietnam War and the counterculture movement also made headlines as the future became quite unclear. Aside from the important news stories of the decade, TVs were also used for entertainment. After dinner, families gathered around the TV, and the living room became a family theater. Some of the most popular shows on television during this time were the Beverly Hillbillies, Bonanza, Dick Van Dyke, The Andy Griffith Show, and Star Trek. By the mid to late 1960s, more women were entering the workforce, and the makeup of the family had begun to change. This trend challenged the social order, where men were the breadwinners, and women managed the home and cared for the children. Road trips during this time were also popular. The interstate highway system was materializing from coast to coast. At the same time, automobiles were becoming a fixture in front of family homes. Gas was about 25 to 30 cents per gallon. With the AAA triptych map and a loaded-up station wagon, American families hit the road with a possible stop at a Holiday Inn or a Howard Johnson restaurant. The 1960s was a great decade for sports. Baseball has never been more exciting than it was in 1961, when Roger Maris and Mickey Mantle raced to break Babe Ruth's record of 60 home runs in a single season. On October 1st, during the last game of the regular season, Roger Maris hit his 61st home run against the Boston Red Sox. In 1964, Olympic gold medalist Cassius Clay, at 22 years old, defeated Sonny Liston in a technical knockout to win the heavyweight boxing championship of the world. A few weeks later, he would change his name to Muhammad Ali. The first Super Bowl featured the Green Bay Packers against the Kansas City Chiefs in 1967. The Packers beat the Chiefs 35-10. The first Super Bowl halftime show featured not a popular singer, but rather 2 marching bands, a solo trumpet player, and the Bell Rocket Airman. If you came of age in the 1960s, your best times were probably spent riding your banana bike with friends, listening to the Beatles, wearing go-go boots or bell-bottom jeans, watching American Bandstand, and learning to do the twist. As the decade came to a close, one event seemed to bring us all back together. Watching Apollo 11 rocket into space and then witnessing astronaut Neil Armstrong take his first steps on the moon was mesmerizing. But the entire decade was spent watching, waiting, and dreaming about a moon landing. Watching NASA put men on the moon was like seeing science fiction come to life, and it was the perfect ending to a memorable time in American history. What are some of your favorite memories of growing up in the 1960s?